Hello everyone in our Facebook group. I'm so glad you are with us today for our visiting authors this month. This is Carol Decker, hello, right here, and Stacey Nash, hi, and their book is UNSHATTERED. So we're excited to talk with them today about Carol's story and Stacey's experience writing the book. We're coming live from my house because they're local. Usually when we do this, we've got me on one side of the screen and the other person on the other side, and we have a live studio audience. I know, like 40 people are here, minus the 0, but the 4 people are here. We're so excited they're here. So first, oh dang, I was going to try to do the whole thing without my readers. Hi, Celeste is watching. Now I have to, first, because I don't have my readers, we're going to have Stacey read their...
Oh my gosh.
Because I don't have...
What am I reading? How come you're not going to let me?
I love you.
Sorry. Just so you all know my sense of humor before we get started.
It's the best. Yes.
Oh, okay.
So we're reading them for you.
All right. Carol J. Decker lives in Enumclaw, Washington with her husband Scott and 2 daughters, Chloe and Sophia. She travels across the nation as a motivational speaker, sharing her story with a depth of perspective that touches the hearts of her listeners. She hopes to share by example that anyone can choose a beautiful life and that with an optimistic attitude and determination, anything is possible. I am a happily married mother of 4 who sleeps too little, sings too loud, and keeps a stash of dark chocolate Hershey's Kisses in her purse, which I'm out of right now. She works as a freelance writer and specializes in family and parenting issues. I just changed tense. And she and her family live in the middle of 40 heavily wooded acres where they split lots of firewood and avoid the occasional bear.
How occasional?
Last summer.
Okay.
Enough that I don't go over there all the time.
No, she's scared of my house.
I take my niece with me. Well, I am so happy that you are both here. We have been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
And we've kind of taken this journey together, and yeah, it's just a pleasure to have you here.
It is. Yeah, Michelle actually introduced us, so that's how we were able to.
Matchmaker, make me. I won't sing. Just kidding. But yes, but you guys did all the heavy lifting. You're just amazing. So just a couple things. If you haven't had a chance to read UNSHATTERED, you can pick it up on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can go to desertbook.com. You can go to Desert Bookstore. You can go to, where else is it sold? Lots of places.
Yeah, locally at the sequel.
Locally at the sequel in Enumclaw. You can go there. And we will be looking at your comments. So when I look up and down, hi Belinda, Celeste said she would be here if she could. I'm sorry you're sick, but I'm glad you're here. So online we'll be reading some of your comments as well. But go online and buy it. And if you want to show them some love, one of the best ways that you can do that is actually by leaving a review on Amazon. And the reason that is gold for authors is because it makes the book go up in rankings, which when people do searches, they find the book easier. So it's a great way for people to take other people's advice on how awesome the story is and how amazing they are, and just to help get their book out there so they can help motivate people, inspire people, and strengthen people. So share the love and leave a review. Okay, so we're going to start. So I had questions for both of you individually and together. But first, will you give, Carol, kind of just a summary for those that haven't had a chance to read it yet, what this book is about?
So this book is about my own story and the things that I learned from going through tragedy. I was pregnant with my second daughter, Sophia, about 7.5 months, and I got really sick and went into sepsis and spent the next 3 months in the hospital fighting for my life. And they had to amputate both my feet, my left hand, my right ring finger. I had to have skin grafting over 30% of my body, and I was also became completely blind from this sickness. So so it's about my survival story and how I got through everything and the things that I learned and how I've moved on in my life and done the same things that I would have done before and even more.
So I love the title, Unshattered. And I think you guys originally were going to call it Shattered, weren't you?
We were, yeah, actually. So.
Yeah, there was another book that came out just a few months before ours called Shattered, so they changed our title.
Well, and the reason for that, when I was doing a talk one time, I had this glass bowl, and it kind of represents like your life is in there in this bowl, and you collect all these beautiful things that you have memories of, whether it was the sports that I did or the travels or, my husband and my children, things like that. And when something really big, traumatic happens in your life, that you drop this glass bowl and it shatters into a million pieces. And what are you going to do with it? Are you going to sweep it up and throw it away? Or are you going to put it all back together? And how are you going to put it back together? And so I decided that life was worth living and that I wanted to put the pieces back together and make something beautiful out of it.
I love that. So I love that, you call it unshattered because you're not broken. And
Right.
I think in our life, most of us don't have the same trials that you do. But we all have our own individual things. And you're so good about acknowledging that. I mean, how many times have I come to you and started whining about something and I say, oh, I shouldn't be whining about that. And you say, no, your problems are big.
They are.
And not have big problems.
No, it's true. Like, I definitely feel that was one of the first things that I learned was people would come into my home and I would listen to their stories because people were serving me all the time, bringing meals and cards and gifts, and just people's love and generosity was amazing. And I learned that they were also going through loss as well. It was just different. And who am I to say that mine's greater than anyone else's, because we're all going through those hard times and those moments. And I think that you need to be here for each other and help each other through those.
Well, and that was so inspiring when I would come and I would talk to you about things. And I'm sure you experienced the same thing, is that you would really acknowledge my difficulties and you'd say, no, what you're carrying is a load just as heavy as mine. It's just different.
Yeah.
And then I was able to take some of the tools that you had and go, look, you're unshattered. So when I feel broken, I can pick up my pieces. And the beautiful part about that is, it demonstrates our ability to choose what we're going to be and who we're going to be.
Yep.
You're not a victim of your circumstance.
No, I didn't want to be. I mean, in the beginning, you don't know what you're doing. You're just surviving or whatever and stuff. And feeling like you are sort of a victim because you're asking all these questions. Why did this happen? What did I do wrong? Or you want to blame somebody else or whatever. But then it's that choice, like you said, is the biggest part of it, is once you make that choice of like, okay, I have a few options. Which one do I want to do? And I really loved my family and I wanted to be a mother more than anything. So I chose to work hard for them.
And you did work really, really hard.
Really hard, yeah.
Yeah. When you
Both
read the book,
physically
you'll
and mentally.
see how hard she worked. So speaking of working hard, Stacey, will you talk to us a little bit about what, logistically, what was it like to co-author this book with her, and then how did that affect you? We kind of talked a little bit about this before our broadcast, but we're going to do it now again.
It started out with Carol and I talking. Carol already had a pretty good idea of the principles that she wanted to cover, she was already working as a speaker, so she had stories that she used to tell those principles. So sometimes she would record them on her phone and send them to me, or sometimes we would do it in person and we would just talk about them. And then I would go home and have to turn them into, a narrative, because how you tell someone a story in person is not necessarily the same way you read it in a book. We'd have to get a lot of the little details, the sounds and the smells and what she was feeling. And then I would go back to Carol and I would read it to her. We met once a week for about 8 months, and I would read it to her and she'd be like, well, I wouldn't really say it this way, or that's not actually the way it happened, or, we would make those little changes that I kind of, the little gaps that I had to fill in until we had a fairly accurate.
And my catchphrase was, do you understand what I mean?
Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? That's what I would always say to her. You know what I mean?
And the funny thing is, when I was talking to her, she started saying that.
Did all the time.
And she'd be talking, you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, I know what you and Carol mean. I know what you mean.
Well, when you can't see someone's reaction or them nodding their head yes or no, you're like, okay, do you get it?
Right. Well, so much is lost because, body language says a lot. So if you can't
Totally.
see that, do you feel like you can hear and sense their emotions and their voices more? Do you Can you sense that?
Yes and no, but when she's just typing because she's trying to
I
get
know.
everything going, I don't want to like interrupt her too, you know. So yeah, and we went through the emotions together, you know.
Yeah, it was a lot more emotional experience than I expected. I mean, I knew it would not be easy to talk about those things with someone, you know, one of the worst things that you've ever gone through, but I didn't realize that, I don't know, was it method acting where they actually like have to experience it? Not that I would ever compare my experience like writing it to you, but I had to feel some of those emotions to write it in first person. So it ended up being a lot more of a roller coaster than I really anticipated.
Well, and then to be with Carol, because as you were, some of these stories you really hadn't talked about or really even thought about in some of these experiences, because you kind of put it, you know, behind you, and not that you shoved it away, but you just kind of moved on. And so to bring up these really difficult times, so not only are you, Stacey, feeling it, but you're watching her relive it, and so you're feeling for her while you're feeling for it. And it was just, I mean, did you guys have like a lot of chocolate on hand when you were doing
There was a lot of Kleenex.
A lot of Kleenex. Yeah.
Well, because there's some really difficult passages in the book, and it's not like I would just have to read them to you once, you know, you have to read it
Several
over
times.
and over and over again for weeks.
Yeah.
So it was,
And I'd have to listen to it too, you know, my phone.
yes, I would send her chapters and she would listen to them when I was
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's how you edited, right? She would send it to you, and then you would have this software on your phone and just listen to it.
Yeah, I would use my iPhone and use the Notes app and dictate, which occasionally she'd get some random weird words because my phone wouldn't translate properly, and she's like, "What is this?" And then she would send me her stuff, you know, in an email, and then I would read it, and that's just the phone, the screen reader reading to me, so it's just a very, you know, computerized voice.
Yeah.
And stuff, and it's different when she would read it to me as well, because you could sense the emotion, and we didn't want to just have this book that was like all happiness and everything's fine. We really needed to portray that part that was difficult. You know, that the chapter Into the Darkness was really hard, you know, and for people to realize that.
Well, I'm sure people reading it kind of went there with you.
Yeah.
And you know, on our Facebook group, there were a couple people that just said, I had to put it down, I couldn't. And I said, no, just pick it up and finish it. I promise, there's a happy ending.
I know.
Here's the happy ending, right? It gets better. But I think most of us, right, have times in our life where we really just go into the darkness. But that's where the faith comes in, right?
Right.
Faith that we can do it, and faith in God, and faith in our family, and faith in the reason why we're doing things.
Yeah.
And you had that. In fact, there were a couple of points in your story that really seemed to ground you in hope and solidify that. And one of them was the first time that you felt Sophia's eyelashes on your cheek.
Yeah.
And that was a sweet moment where you went, okay, you know, I feel like, talk for a second just about what that moment was like.
Yeah, so that was really early on. I was sedated. They had put me into a 20-day, induced coma. And when they pulled me out, you know, the first thing I wanted to know was about my baby. And I was intubated at the time, so I couldn't speak. I could only just, you know, shake and nod my head. And so they got special permission, which I didn't realize at the time. They had to do that, but they don't normally bring in, 4-pound, 15-ounce baby, from the NICU to the ICU. But the doctors really didn't think that I was going to survive. And so they brought her in, and we met cheek to cheek, and we both had our matching feeding tubes. And even though it was just like a brief moment, it was kind of one of my first moments that I really remember. And I, quickly just faded back into sleep and stuff, and that, but yeah.
What a tender mercy that you had that moment of clarity.
Yeah.
I mean, enough to feel her eyelashes next to your cheek.
And her cheek, yeah. And just her little baby smell and just everything.
I love the smell of babies.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Scott said everyone was crying.
I bet.
In the
I
room.
bet.
Yeah.
I was crying listening. So there's also, they have the book on CD, which Stacey got to read. How many days did it take you to read it?
It was 2 days, but I'm trying to remember how many hours it was. Yeah, it only took us 2 days, but it was pretty fun. If somebody offered me a job to be a book narrator, I'd be like, yes,
Done and
such a
done.
good job. It's so funny because I know them both, but but so she reads it, Stacey's reading it in Carol's first person, but I can hear Carol through it. So it's really, but I loved listening to it. But yeah, you have to have Kleenex in the car too. Don't drive on the freeway and listen to it. You're just going to be thorning off the road. It's bad.
When Stacey and I did a couple of signings, we handed out free Kleenex and chocolate because we said you're going to need
yes. Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay. Oh, Belinda says that's so true. She's so sweet. So another time was when, tell us about when you were making, the first time you made cookies.
Oh, yeah. So I was, home out of the hospital, and we had hired Erin Rose Stout to be our nanny, and she was with us for 4 years. And one day she comes in and she says to me, "Oh, we're going to make cookies today." And I distinctly remember telling my brother Heath when I was in the hospital, "I'm never going to make cookies with my kids." And that was really hard for me. And as she comes in and I told her, "Oh, Erin, I can't do that. I can't make cookies with my kids." And she goes, "Nope, you're going to make cookies." And I was in my wheelchair at the time, and so she's like, wheels me over to the table, and she wouldn't take no for an answer. And she puts Chloe at the table and Sophia in her high chair, which kind of went up to the table too. And, Sophia's just kind of pounding her fists on the table, and Chloe's rolling out the dough, and my hands are kind of guiding over her arms, and hands on the rolling pin, and I'm making cookies with my kids, and next thing you know, Chloe leans over and she touches my nose with her flour covered fingers. Yeah, it's a pretty magical moment. Every time I think about it, I kind of get teary, and in that moment it was just like this window just opened, and all of a sudden I realized that I could do other things with my kids besides just making cookies. If I could make cookies, then what else could I do?
Right.
And it didn't matter that I didn't make the dough or put them in the oven. It was just about having the experience and being there.
Well, it's almost like you had this Velveteen Rabbit moment where, you feel like, kind of rugged and ragged, and I don't know if I could ever be a real mom, even though you'd had those moments already. But in that moment, you went, I can be a functioning mom.
Right.
I can cook with them, and I can bake with them, and I can play with them, and I can raise them. And that to me was one of the most poignant moments in the book, was because it was that moment of realization where you went, okay, I can do this. But because before it was grit, and then it was hope, and now it was a reality.
All I could think about was all the things I couldn't do.
Right.
I can't run and do Ring Around the Rosie, and I can't do this, and what kind of mom am I going to be, like you said? Yeah. But it was that first realization and that first glimmer of hope, kind of,
Yeah, I'm smiling because I'm thinking about the time you called me and you said, I got my new cheetah feet in. I'm going to go on the trampoline today. And that's the kind of person you are. It was that turning that corner to what you can do. And I think when you were writing this with Stacey, and we were talking about this beforehand, I don't think readers realize how much of Stacey is in this book too. Because you would tell a story, and then because she was kind of looking at it from the outside, she was able to say, this is the lesson I see here, and this is what I feel from here, and you would go, and so it was probably enlightening for both of you, because there's some things you went through that maybe you didn't realize how it would affect people until.
I totally agree with that.
There was definitely a couple of times where we would start talking about it, and I was like, I knew this and this, and you're like, and then she would have excellent stories that even make it even better. And I was like,
I know, those epiphany moments.
We had a few of those.
And then we had moments where we would just chat about our day.
We would, and sit in silence because we're like, well, I can't think of anything, so we'll get back to that next week.
Right, exactly.
What I've loved seeing is the friendship that you two have developed. I mean, it's real. I don't think you can go through what you did. And you guys went through a lot. I've heard, one person said, well, so did Carol just tell you what to write and you just typed it out? And
no,
it's very, very different. It's really half and half, and you went through it, and then she helped bring it to life. And, I think it's a real gift that you have to be able to come through it, and a gift that you have to be able to create this, and so people can feel you. And I want them to experience you too, because there's a lot of there's so much of Stacey in here too. A lot of that heart is as well.
Yeah.
You're very talented.
Yeah. Well, and for her to actually kind of portray my voice as well. you know, there's a both of us, you know.
Yeah, well, it was I remember one of Carol's friends, she read, I don't know if she'd read the book before it came out or what, but said to Carol, she's like, wow, she's like, I can hear your voice coming through. She says, but I can tell the parts that aren't necessarily you. And I wouldn't know that reading it, because I think I read it so many times I couldn't tell anymore. But someone who knew you really well could see that there were parts that were just sort of mixing and folding those pieces together.
And polishing them up.
Yeah.
Kind of like the difference between me, like on a Wednesday morning with, you know, no hair, my hair not washed for 5 days and stuff, and then church.
Yeah.
So you just polished her up, made her look good.
She does. Yeah, Stacey definitely has an elegance and a true talent, and making everything beautiful. So
we're just gonna embarrass her. Let's keep doing it.
She doesn't like compliments.
Well, and I think that you know, when it comes to this book, most of the appearances have been you, because it's your story.
Sure.
Right. And so I think that there are a lot of people too that are fascinated with Stacey and how that came to be. Because this is not the only thing that you write, though, right, Stacey? You write other things.
Yes. Hint, hint. She's like,
I know.
yes.
Well,
I work as a freelance writer, so I write 5 to 7 hours a day. But I'm working on a project somewhat like Carol's. I'm not doing all the writing. I'm working as a developmental editor with a woman for her memoir that is about the loss of her son to a rare genetic disorder. But the majority of the writing I do is for businesses and stuff. So
well, and I admitted that at the beginning. I said, I'm not a writer. I'm a storyteller. I'd rather just speak about it, you know, because I'm not that.
Well, and I remember when we were very first starting out, you sent me home with your voice recorder that had some of your talks on it, because I needed to learn. You know, everybody has a certain way that they talk and the words they use and how they arrange their sentences, and I had to learn how Carol talks and arranges things and how does she think to.
Yeah, if he gets too quiet, I have to make him laugh. To break the silence.
So you know they're still there.
Yeah.
But that, you know, that is a real skill, though, because I think it's really hard writing someone else's story not to put your voice and your twist on it, or to make it sound like this is, you know, some adventure novel, but to make it you. And I think that's.
I wish I would have been Indiana Jones.
I don't know. You riding in the gator in Idaho, driving down the road. It's kind of like Indiana Jones.
Tell that story. That's a fun story.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. So when I go and speak, you know, I talk about all these things I can do, and then I go, the one thing I can't do is drive, and I'm kind of upset about it. So, but my dad found a way. He took me out to Idaho and to my stepmom's farm that her sister and her husband live on, and they have one of those, you know, ATV gator things, or a mule, whatever they're called, you know, and, you know, set me down behind the wheel and gave me a few instructions and buckled me in and buckled my daughters in behind us, and my dad leaned over and said, go like hell. And I drove all over the farm that day, and we had a blast. We gave everyone rides and everything, and you know, we just, just to be able to drive again was awesome. So I really do miss it a lot. I really wish I could just get in the car and go sometimes. But the funny story is, at the end of the day, we're, you know, heading back, and my dad said, okay, well, we can, you know, drive back through the farm, or we can go out on the street and drive back to the house that way. And I hadn't been on the street, you know, and I said, I really want to drive on the street, Dad. He goes, okay, let's do it. And so we were driving down the street, and all of a sudden my dad says, okay, there's a truck coming. And I'm like, oh, and he's like, don't panic. I'm like, okay, this is fine. We're good. We got this. No big deal, you know. And then, you know, being the person I am, I said, Dad, I want to wave to him. And he's like, okay, you know. And you have to know that the last movie I watched with my oldest daughter, Chloe, was Finding Nemo. So we named my left arm my Lucky Fin. And so I said, okay, Dad, tell me when he's there. And he says, okay. And so I throw out my arm, and I'm waving my Lucky Fin in the air at this guy, you know, and he has no idea. He just passed a blind lady. So we should have pulled him over and told him, but we didn't. And yeah, so anyways, that was a great time.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
That reminds me of the story you told me when you got upset at someone at home, and then you just stormed out of the house.
Oh yeah. Yeah, not a lot of people know this story, so I guess we'll just get it out there.
I'm not naming names. It could have been me at your house. We're not just saying it. And if you don't want want to talk about it. We'll edit it
No,
out.
no.
We'll just say it was a good story.
No, this is good because when you do go through something like this, at least for me, I changed so much because I had to learn to walk and feed myself and dress myself. And so I say that I was an infant when I first came home. And then I became a toddler where every time I did something new, I was like, I did it, you know, and it was just like the best thing ever because having a first again was awesome. And then I went through my adolescence where it was like, don't tell me what to do because I'll do what I want, you know. And Scott and I had gotten in, you know, a little tiff, and he's like, well, you can just go do whatever you want. And I go, oh yeah, I can just get in the car and go wherever I want. And he's like, yeah, whatever you want to do. You know, it was just kind of one of those moments you have in your marriage. And I thought about it for a few minutes and I was like, fine. And I picked up my stick and I walked down the street.
Just walking down the street.
And the school that I walked my kids to was just 3 houses down. And I got to the end of the school. I walked down to the school, and then a man like approached me with a dog, and it just freaked me out so bad. You know, nothing happened or whatever, but I went directly to the bench in front of the school, and I called my sister-in-law and I said, I just left home, you have to come get me now. I'm scared.
But I love that fire in you, though. You call it adolescence, but I think it's just carolescence.
Yeah.
It's that fire of you're not telling what to do.
Yeah.
I'm not shattered.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wear high heels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna wear my heels for sure. Yeah, and that's, you know, and I can relate with the kids now.
Yeah.
Like I knew exactly what they were going through and why they thought, as you know, when you see like a baby turn around and like go down the steps backwards, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Those steps are huge.
Yeah.
So just so many of those things, yeah. But
And for those that haven't had a chance to hear the story yet, so how long after you left the hospital did you, because one of your goals was to wear high heels again.
Yeah.
So talk about that night.
Yes, yeah. So I entered the hospital on June 10th of 2008, and then my last day was November 5th of 2008, and that's kind of my remembrance day because the other day is my daughter's birthday, and that's her day. And so I left that day, and I said, I'm gonna go to downtown Seattle to my favorite restaurant, the Wild Ginger, and I'm gonna wear my high heels on my birthday next year. And I'm telling, you know, the doctor and my family, and they're all like, oh, okay, like she's crazy, you know, whatever. And yeah, so I went home and started doing rehab in my home for the next 2 years, and that following year, June of 2009, was when I actually got my new legs that were the height adjustable heels, and got to try on my high heels on Sophia's birthday, which was kind of cool. And then on my birthday, August 7th, I walked into downtown Seattle, into the Wild Ginger, and not a single person in that restaurant had any clue that I had been, you know, in a literal fight for my life the year before. So, and I had 20 of my closest friends and family, and yeah, it was pretty amazing.
You just rocked the heels. You
did.
You probably walked them better than I can walk.
I don't know about that, but
I had a hard time.
And I wore them for a few other times, you know, for the next few months, and then I just said, yeah, it's not worth it, so I went back to flats.
That's kind of where I am.
Yeah. But you know, the reason I thought that was because I wore heels every day before that, and you think you want to just be the person you were before. And so that was another thing that I had to go through, is that transition of letting go of who I was, because I was never going to be the exact same person that I was before, and then I didn't really know what the future was going to hold, and that I needed to just live every moment in the present and accept that, and just enjoy every aspect of it. So that's kind of how I started living my life, you know.
Well, and one of the chapters in the book is called Letting Go, and that's exactly what, and I love that, because I think so many times we hold on to the life we had before something happened, before a major shift in our life, whether it was because of us or it happened to us and we don't have control over. Right. And we mourn the life we wish we had, or the child we wish we had, or the relationship we wish we, and you know, we live in that past, and you went through that where you were just mad, I'm not going to do this and I can't do this. And so what was that turning point where you stopped and you went, I need to let go of that and look at, okay, this is what I have to work with now, and I'm grateful I'm here. What can I do now? How did you let go?
Yeah, I was working with a psych therapist. She would come once a week to my home, and she's the one who kind of told me that, you know, Carol, you can't live in the past, and you don't know what the future is, and you just kind of need to be in the present right now, and look at all the accomplishments that you're making, you know, on a daily basis. And I really just took that to heart. And the next morning I woke up and I was like, okay, I can hear my girls giggling. I live in a nice home. My husband's, next to me in bed. Like, just all those things that you don't take the time to appreciate, maybe, because they're just there, they're constants and stuff. But for me, it was like gratitude just started filling my heart with all the things that I did have, because I really felt like I should have not survived at a time, all the things that I went through and had to fight for. And once I realized that I was grateful for my life and everything in it, then I stopped asking all those questions, like why? And I just moved on and let go and forgave myself and forgave the situation, even though there wasn't anyone to blame. But that's just what we do, and then letting go of the fear of not being who I was. And I think that's what changes. Like we all go through, and that's kind of why I relate to other people when they're going through loss, is once you make that change and you accept, okay, I have cancer, or my parent just passed away, or I lost my job. Okay, now what can I do with that? Instead of just trying to go, oh, I wish I could go back. You just get over that fear and you go, okay, well, what do I have to lose? Go apply for that job you never thought you could have, or do something for someone that you never did before. And it can be pretty liberating, like, especially for me, just driving in a car, like I just told the story of driving in the ATV again. Like it can be really liberating, and getting over the fear of it, you know what I mean? And being blind kind of can feel like that. And I don't have any fear anymore.
That's amazing. And it's not only what do I have to lose, but you turn an extra corner to what do I have to gain.
Yeah.
And then you would go after those things. So as you guys were writing this chapter, letting go, what were the thoughts, Stacey, that came to your mind as you were helping her kind of pull out those points of strength and that perspective? I mean, what are your personal thoughts about?
I think most of the time I just thought, man, I wish I could be more like Carol. Because I think something just from the book overall, I don't think that I am the same person when I started the book as to when we ended. Number one, we became friends, and you just learn, so much about each other. But I think that for me, it also taught me how to see the world differently, because I learned to see the world the way Carol sees it, which is a very unique perspective, because she sees people for who they are. She doesn't see what they look like or how they dress or anything that they have. It's just who they are. And I think that for me, that was the biggest change and takeaway, is that's kind of letting go.
Yeah.
Well, I think it is, because when you get to sit and talk to Carol, you don't worry, oh, do I look fat in this shirt? Do I have a booger? Does my hair look all right? What is she going to think of me? Because you've never seen me, right?
No.
We became friends after your life changed, and so you have no idea what I look like. But that doesn't take away from our friendship at all. In fact, it adds this freeing element, because when you talk to me and you love me, it's for me, and it's not for anything else.
Yeah.
And I wish that we all had that ability to not look at a person and go, oh, I like how they look, or I like what they do, I like how they do this, but just look past that, and you see people's souls. And I see that in you when you go, and you've probably seen this too, when you go speaking, because you go with her a lot when she goes on speaking engagements, and the way that you interact with people afterwards. She has an amazing ability to remember names and things. I know. She's like, how's your daughter? I'm like, I don't know.
What day were we doing the live interview? I was like, I don't know. Let me ask Carol, because I told her she probably knows.
She remembers everything, and she remembers people. And the first time we met, you even remembered my name, and I was a terrible person. I'm just telling you. We're not going to tell that story now, because this is your story. But I recovered. But you just see all the good in people, right?
Yeah.
And I just love that about you.
I think it's cool too, because I've become friends with people that maybe I never, you think you need to be friends with people that are just like you. And I'm friends with people that aren't, like, they're opposite of me. You know what I mean? But we just connected in a different way, and that's pretty cool. I love that.
Well, I think it allows you to see more the similarities.
Mm-hmm.
Because people look different and we dress different and we kind of have our own little
Right.
groups and
Right.
stuff, but you're
Right.
able to see all through that and go, okay,
Yeah.
you're a survivor, I'm a survivor,
Yeah.
you like ice cream, I like ice cream, let's
Right.
let's connect. And I think that's a real gift.
Yeah, I thought it was chocolate chip cookies though.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
it is. Chocolate chip cookies and ice cream and all that yummy stuff. We like all the food. So talk to us, both of you, a little bit about what it's like to travel together and do speaking engagements.
Well, let's just say that it's a little scary that I'm the eyes of the operation because I'm not the most observant person.
It's so true. Sorry.
It really is.
And they went to New York together.
We went to New
Yeah.
York City together. My husband was like, I'm really scared.
He was
I grew up
terrified.
on a dairy farm, so he's like, I'm a little worried that my country bumpkin wife is going to New York City with a blind woman. So it was a little scary.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's tell the first story, getting to the airport.
What? The one about the chairs?
Uh-huh.
Oh. So Carol arranges to get a wheelchair when we get to the airport. It's just so much easier to get to our flight. But we had to meet them at this special, handicap place.
It's not really that special. The guy gave us directions, but
So anyway, we were walking. It was probably 10, 15 minutes. I'm like, Carol, I just don't see it anywhere. I don't know what he's talking about.
Meanwhile, there's wheelchairs going by her, she's like, where are they coming from?
Turn around, 10 feet behind me, there's literally 20 chairs with a big yellow wheelchair. And the lady's standing there with the wheelchair, looking for us. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
Carol, I found it.
Yeah. And for some reason, she thought that we needed the actual, golf cart in the airport, that the entire time you're in it, it's going beep, beep, beep. It was slower than the wheelchair.
I know, I could have
Yeah.
pushed you faster.
Yeah, and then I made her take a picture of us. So yeah, but we got to New York, and it was Stacey's first time in New York, and I had been there several times because I lived on the East Coast in Boston, and my husband and I loved visiting New York, and it's a great city. And she's just like this new kid at a candy store.
Buildings are so big.
Carol, we're at Carnegie Hall.
Our hotel was across the street.
Well, yeah. So it was amazing.
We have fun when we travel because I get us lost and Carol finds us, oddly enough.
Yeah. I have a good sense of direction, But we had another cool experience, I always tell people, even if it's something bad happens or good happens, it's still just an experience that you remember, and we got to go to 9/11 together.
We did to Ground
Memorial.
Zero, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
which was an incredible experience.
Yeah, so we're at the little pools, reflection pools is that what they call them, and feeling the names on the marble, which I can feel they're all etched in, and the different kind of symbols for the firefighters and other people, and then you can reach your hand in and touch the water, and it's just completely peaceful and serene. These two reflection pools, and next thing you know, Stacey, had a couple of friends with her that met us there, and they said, you got to come over and see this. And so they walk us over to this tree that's in that area, and it's taped off, and she starts reading me the little plaque. Well, they had found a pear tree in the rubble, and they took it to a nursery, and they brought it back, nursed it back to health, and it has the burn marks on it and different scars and stuff, and the first time that this pear tree bloomed, they took the seeds, and now they donate the seeds to other traumatic events to plant another tree, for remembrance. And this pear tree blossoms every year, and it stands as a symbol of the survivor tree. And I just instantly start crying. I'm like, this is my tree.
We need to get you some of those seeds.
Yeah. You better get your own tree because this is mine. And it's all about resilience and hope and renewal. And it meant so much to me to be there with Stacey during that moment, because we had gone through that, writing the book together and our journey, and just to be there, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a special moment.
Yeah.
It's almost as special as the moment in the airport when I was pushing you in the wheelchair and you tried to dive out.
You let go of me. What are you talking about? Dove out.
Leaning forward down a ramp.
And the brakes
Not to ruin the moment.
I know. It's always a good time with Michelle.
That was fun.
I know, it
That
was fun. I always have fun.
We have
for
a good
sure.
time. So if you ever want to have a good time, go somewhere with Carol and Stacey or me, and you will get
Yes.
lost, or you will get in some kind of trouble, and it will be fun.
Yes.
It'll be fun. It'll be
Yes,
fun.
exactly.
Okay, so I'm curious, could you tell us just about what a typical day in your life is now? Because before you had Aaron with you for 4 years taking care of everything, so you don't have any help at home on a regular basis with like
No.
someone staying there. So tell us like how you get up, and I've seen
Yeah.
this, she's amazing, but she does her own makeup and her own hair. So tell us about how you just live your life.
Yeah, I have my wheelchair right next to my bed, and I just roll over and get into it and wheel myself in, and I have everything kind of set up in my house. My shower has a bench with all my little pumps and stuff, and if you move anything, you're in big trouble. and just keep everything, like my blow dryer is plugged in, and my makeup in a certain order and labeled a certain way, and and get out and get ready for the day and get my legs on at 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, get my kids off to school. I used to walk them to school because we live close, but now they're in middle school and I can't walk them anymore, which is sad, but that's okay. Progression. I know where my clothes are, and I organize them by color and pick out what I want to wear and things like that. I can't change my own shoes. That's really hard for me. Every now and then I can, and I'm pretty proud, but that one time I went to church and I put the wrong shoe on the wrong foot. And I didn't know till I got home. I was so proud of myself. Daddy, I put my shoes on. He's like, yeah, they're on the wrong feet. I'm like, oh, dang it. It's not so much like a little kid though. They always do that, right? They always put like the wrong shoes on their feet. So anyways, and I go through my emails I use my iPhone. It has a screen reader and it talks to me, and I have like 3 Alexas in my house that I can control my microwave and my heating and air conditioning, and so
Nice.
Yeah, it's a very like computerized house. And I do my text messages and everything with my phone. I can listen to music or books and things like that, and I do my own laundry, and like she said, I do my makeup, and of course my girls check it with a Q-tip afterwards for my mascara mistakes. Cooking is still really hard for me. I'm kind of scared of it, and it takes me a really long time, so it's not really worth it. So if anybody wants to be paid for meals, I would love to do that. We have someone that does twice a week for us. So it's just, I tried to do everything. The one goal that Scott and I had at the beginning was that we wanted to have, quote unquote, a normal life for our kids. Whatever that is, because there's no normal life, but what I wanted it to be for my family. And so I go to my kids' sports events, and I take them to their music things, and I go to the doctor with them, and I try to do every activity I can with them, jumping into the ocean with them and getting on the trampoline and,
Snowboarding.
Sit skiing.
Sit skiing, yeah.
I did try snowboarding, yeah. But the sit skiing, with my family, and I just didn't want them to have anything that would hinder their life, because of my disabilities. And so I try, and and it's still hard for my kids sometimes. It's hard for them to have a disabled mom because they're different, and they'll come home and tell me stories and things like that. And I say, it's all about educating people. They just don't know. And so the more we can tell people about what it's like to have, be blind or be disabled, then the better those people know and how to help other people. Because there's, people think, oh, you can't ask them, but you can. There's always a nice way to ask somebody something. So I always tell people, do you mind if I ask you, what happened to you, or, whatever. And people, like, for me, I'm really open to it. I'll just tell you anything, but, and I can see how maybe some people might be offended, but I choose not to be like that, and I want people to feel comfortable, and so.
Just amazing. Okay, before we wrap this up, Stacey, you do co-authoring and other stuff. How can people get a hold of you if they have questions about your writing, if they want to talk to you about a project, or see what else you do?
You can go to my website, which is staceylnashwrites.com. I have an author Facebook page. You can also contact me there. It's just under author Stacey L. Nash. Or if someone wants to talk to me about writing a book for someone else, like you writing the book for someone else or consulting or whatever, you can contact me through my email, which is Stacey L. No, what is my email? slnashwrites@gmail.com.
And we'll put the link. That was one of our friends got a phone call. It was really important.
And is that, it's SL? And
This
then-
is Facebook Live. We're fine.
Okay.
So I'll put the link to your website. We'll
Okay.
put it in the comments. Well, I'll have you do it. You can go ahead and put it in the comments. That way people can also contact you on Facebook. And she's also an awesome editor. She has a great eye for story and for emotion. And she's helped me with some of my fiction things that I'm still working on. And she dabbles in fiction too. She's super, super smart. So anyway, I'm just really glad that you're here and that you could share this with us. And then, Carol, how can they get a hold of you? Because people might want you to come, because you actively do speaking engagements and you go talk to huge groups, small groups, church groups, businesses groups. How can they get a hold of you, and what else would you like to share before we?
Yeah, you can contact me through my website, which is caroljddecker.com, and you can see like a little short video of me skiing and things like that, and then it'll go through my email, and then I'll email you back or call you with the phone number that you leave on there, and yeah.
Cool.
So, I mean, I'm on Facebook, but I'm not very good at it, and I'm on Instagram, Carol J. Decker. So if you want to, I think recently we posted me hugging Chewbacca at Disneyland, so
Yeah, she just came back from
that's pretty
Disneyland.
cool. I'm pretty excited about that.
So we had some comments. Emily Wood said, Carol, thank you for sharing your story. You're an inspiration. And Stacey, you did a beautiful job telling her story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily.
And we've had lots of people come and go as they're watching. Carrie and Belinda and Celeste and Christine have been here. So we just really appreciate everyone that's watched here in my house, and everyone that's watched on the video, and people that will watch on the video, because we'll keep this up on the page. And if you have any other questions, we'll go ahead and keep this post up, and if you ask questions, then we'll do our best to make sure that we get them answered. If you're watching this the day after or the next day, whatever works for you. Do you have any parting words that you would like to share?
Well, the last quote from Stacey and I, our book, is life is a gift. If you don't open it, you'll never experience the beauty inside. So just remember that life is worth living and have lots of experiences, because it's beautiful.
Just like you guys. Hey, Stacey Nash, Carol Decker from UNSHATTERED, the story of Carol Decker. So I hope that if you haven't had a chance to read this, go read it. You can buy the audiobook and listen to it. It is so good. And it is a kind of a hard read, but I promise you, as you read it, as you read through it, it will change you, and you will be inspired by your words and the way that you helped write her words, and you'll be better for it. And also leave a review.
Thank you, Michelle, so
Yes,
much for.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it was fun.
Thanks for being here. It was so fun.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go eat some chocolate. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.